The big kick has started. Agita looks dangerous to me in third.
Youth. Arts. Culture.
Spectrum. Youth, Arts, Culture. Every Tuesdays, 11:50 a.m., bringing you current issues, tips, insights, and more. Only on TRAXXfm. Youth, Arts, Culture. Spectrum. Right now on TRAXXfm.
11:16 a.m. on the clock right now. Of course, every Tuesday we have this segment Spectrum on Tracks, and today, like I mentioned earlier on, we have a special guest in the studio today. We are also on Facebook Live right now at TRAXXfm Official, so you can leave your comments or any questions on there. Our guest today, he is the Vice President of Operations and Growth, Esports Integrated ESI. We have Mr. Fadzli Rahim today. We're going to be talking about esports in Malaysia. Good morning, Mr. Fadzli.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, nice. How are you feeling today?
I'm fine.
Yeah?
Yes. How are you?
I'm good. Today is the only day I had enough sleep lah.
All right.
But I know it's the opposite for you.
Yes. I wish I have more sleep. It's been quite a recurring thing lately.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
but it's fine. It's all work. It's all good.
It's fine. You don't look like you're how to say, not well rested. You look well
Yes.
rested.
Okay.
So
Thank you for saying that.
But yeah, before we dive into this, the Vietnam SEA Games obviously saw our national esports athletes win 3 bronze medals, right, for Malaysia.
Yes.
And of course, we would like to congratulate them for their win. Did you feel proud?
Yes,
Yeah?
absolutely. Along with other Malaysians who love esports or even sports in general.
Yes.
It's always a good achievement, and it's always good to see your country's name, in the top of the list.
And especially esports as well, right? Because
That's right.
it's a new thing.
Yes,
Right? Currently,
yes.
yeah. So, basically, could you tell us, about the history of esports in Malaysia and how it has grown in popularity among Malaysia's youth? Because I know, I mean, I'm not gonna talk like how old I am, but back then, esports was not a big thing.
Right.
But during the recent years, 5 years ago, it started blooming, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
So, in your experience, can you tell us a little bit more about the history of esports?
It's exactly like what you said. Malaysia has always been a thriving hub for when it comes to esports or even competitive gaming.
Right.
It started back in early 2000s.
Oh.
I believe there was a participation by a Malaysian player or team back in 2006, 2007 in World Cyber Games qualifiers and things like that. And even before that, Malaysians have been competing in other tournaments as well. Things like the International, the first edition was won by a Malaysian player in a team and things like that. And like what you said earlier, the explosive growth on esports were pretty much kick-started in tandem with the growth of internet, particularly mobile internet, back in early 2010s when, mobile internet is more affordable to a lot of people.
Right.
Then, people start embracing, things that are beyond social media and things like that, such as
Yeah.
competitive gaming. So that's how esports really, exploded.
Yeah.
And it's affordable as well. So, a lot of people have access. And then mobile phones are ubiquitous these days and, everyone has mobile phones.
Yeah.
So accessibility is much more open these days compared to, I guess, when we were younger.
Yeah, exactly. So we definitely saw a bloom in it, especially in Southeast Asia, right? Because they're always talking about, Southeast Asia, the biggest player are found in Southeast Asia and stuff like that. So, all right. Anyway, what are some of your responsibilities as Esports Integrated that fall under the Ministry of Youth and Sports purview?
All right. Esports Integrated, or ESI, is actually an initiative under the purview of Impact Integrated, which is an agency under KBS, or Ministry of Youth and Sports,
Right.
To catalyze a vibrant, sustainable and inclusive esports ecosystem in Malaysia, which enables growth, ensures protection, and expands diversity. So how do we we ensure or even promote all this is by performing up to about 7 roles that we do on behalf of KBS. The first one is tournaments, things like grassroots tournaments. Last year we had our first ever national grassroots level esports tournament called Malaysia Esports League, and we had early this year we completed our second professional competition called Malaysia Esports Championship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then hopefully we're gonna run for the 3rd year, end of this year. And then we also have a tournament platform called esukan.gg where anyone, such as event organizer, or even professional or amateur players, can conduct or even run their own tournaments on the platform for free.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, and then there's also a ranking system built into that, so you can also rank yourself, and then hopefully the industry embraces the platform, and then hopefully we'll be able to expand.
Yeah.
The
There we
ranking
go.
system. Yeah, and then we also have hub, we also have capacity building programs, we also have conferences and B2B programs such as Esports Integrated Conference. We also have our TV show as well. We also have. We also work closely with advocacy, especially when it comes to esports. We cover many aspects of things, and so we also together on behalf of KBS, together working with Futurize, are working on a national esports regulatory guideline.
Right.
Yeah. And lastly, we are also supporting the industry, be it event organizers, be it game publishers, to help support their programs.
Right.
Yeah.
So just now you mentioned you cover a lot of things in esports, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, what do you cover? Let's say, how does a day in the life looks like for Fadzli?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It really depends. Okay, when it comes to esports, we're talking about various dimensions, I suppose. So you have, like myself, will be probably on the business side of esports.
Okay.
And also development, because we deal with the ministerial policy or even a blueprint. But they're also playing, the professional playing part. There's also the entertainment, the content development part. But there's also production when it comes to event organizing. So it really depends on what you want to do. For day in my life, I guess, I suppose, is coordinating programs that are under our purview, and also opening ourselves up, having conversations with industry players, and supporting them if we could, and also for newcomers, give them advice. Basically, how do they chart their route? Let's say, for example, if they want to come in as a professional players, I will consult X in professional players as well, and then what will be the ideal route map for this person. Yeah.
Wow, this is like, it's almost like a course, right?
I guess that's
like
the dream.
course,
yeah. I mean, at this point of time, we are doing it. I guess that one on a lower scale, a smaller scale. But we eventually going to scale up, and then it will be automated. And eventually, we'll have I guess our capacity building classes, probably an academy down the road. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Since you mentioned academy, right? I'm so sorry, I'm going off topic.
Go ahead,
But
no worries.
in Japan recently, right? Did you read about that? There's actually a university in Japan that lets you study about gaming. There's actually a university built for gaming.
I think I might have read it somewhere. Yeah.
It's been trending, and I think a lot of Malaysians applied for that as well.
Yeah.
And not even Malaysia, a lot of people worldwide applied for that because that university specializes in gaming.
Right. I guess, if you look into the gaming industry, so you have different aspects as well. Sometimes, so every department has their own importance. So one of it is quality control QC.
Yeah.
So obviously, QC people will be the one playing the game. So it is I suppose, a much needed, role within the ecosystem. So I guess, this introduction of this course are to fit that.
It was really surprising because, back in we would never imagine there would be something like this, right? So there we go. And before we move on to the next question, so when you talk, just now you mentioned a little bit about the newcomers, the amateur players and stuff like that. Do you need to audition them like an actor? Or let me see how you play the game.
No, we don't do that. ESI doesn't do that. Probably other teams, I suppose, the likes of professional esports teams, they will probably do that.
Really?
Yeah. I guess esports, it's not just it goes beyond sports. I suppose conventional sports are like that these days. You are also an influencer, you are also a marketeer to some extent. So they need to see your personality. So that that is an important part of being an esports person. Yeah.
Wow. So literally, you need to audition for.
Wow. You have to be. I mean, like, not necessarily have to be well versed, but you need to be of a certain level, I guess.
I see. That's pretty cool. That's new knowledge to me.
Yeah.
So could you summarize the important themes of the Esports Development Strategic Plan 2020 to 2025? Because you mentioned that it's segregated into like 7, right? Just now you mentioned. So can you summarize the important themes of that? Yeah.
That's exactly that. Our 7 roles are basically complementary, or rather representative of the key points inside the blueprint, the development plan. We call it the blueprint.
Yeah.
The first one is called to develop athletes for esports excellence. Things like creating a guideline on how, like a career map,
right?
Things like that. Yeah,
cool.
Going into esports science, physiology, psychology, nutrition, and things like that, and even conducting grassroots and also professional leagues or tournaments.
Right.
Second is to instill responsible gaming and esports ethics. That is also via regulating, via guideline, improving perception, increasing participation of women in esports, addressing issues. And also balancing esports with physical activities. The third one will be to give better access to esports infrastructure. This is where our recently launched ESI Hub comes into play. And prior to that, there was also initiative by Majlis Sukan Negara, National Sports Council, on developing local state esports hubs as well.
Right.
And number 4 is to build a sustainable esports ecosystem. So this goes beyond this tournament. So how do we achieve that? Is via creating a platform and also supporting the ecosystem.
Right.
And lastly is to institute good law and good governance. So remember I spoke about the guideline. The dream is for the guideline to be embraced fully by industry stakeholders and players, and eventually it will form into an esports act, hopefully. Something in line with the National Sports Act. So hopefully we can have something for esports soon.
So with all that, then maybe in Malaysia we'll also have like a university for,
It could be.
It could be, right? We never know. So there we go. We'll be taking a short break right now. We're on Facebook Live at TRAXXfm Official. So if you have any questions about esports or anything like that, if your friends or your child is interested in esports, we'll be talking more about that in a bit. So stay tuned.
Feel good radio station.
Make me feel good. Anywhere, anytime. TRAXXfm.
Living life in color. Everything around me looks so beautiful and sweet. Heavenly desire. Everything so bright, it's like a brand new movie scene. All the immersive colors, picture perfect, vibrant, gamer's paradise. And the world keeps going right. I feel good when there's a million stars in the sky. I feel good when the sun is shining so bright. I feel good. And the world keeps going round, going round. I feel good. Life is clearer than I've ever seen. Feels like I've got magic inside me. The world is lighting up, lighting up. Ooh. Oh, let all the immersive colors, picture perfect, vibrant, gamer's paradise. It's blissful, and the world keeps going round. I feel good when there's a million stars in the sky. I feel good when the sun is shining so bright. I feel good, and the world keeps going round, going round. I feel good.
Direct to your home, in the car, or at work with 50,000 watts of power and no satellite dish required.
11 on the clock right now. And of course, this is Spectrum on Tracks. We're talking about esports in Malaysia. We're talking to our guest, Mr. Fadzli Rahim. And of course, like I mentioned, because I'm a part-time public speaking teacher, okay? And yeah, that's information no one asked for. But you know, some kids actually come up to me and say, I want to be a professional gamer when I grow up. And this is coming from 12-year-olds. And for me, in my kind of culture, my kind of era is like, oh, if you're not a lawyer, you're not a doctor, you're not an accountant, you are just a failure. But now it's like, it's already branched out, right?
Yes.
And I always encourage people, like, you want to be a be it, you know, be it. But I don't know the proper advice to give. So maybe you can share some later, okay?
Well, I guess, firstly is to ask their main interest. You know, professional gamer is one of it, but that's not, you know, one career option when it comes to esports. There are also various aspects of it, such as commentating, you know, casting a live stream, becoming an influencer, content creation, or even event management. Also, you know, part of my work, such as business development as well, could be considered as esports. So I think if you're talking about going into or becoming a professional player specifically, you know, one can also try, you know, by enrolling themselves into a professional team's esports academy or even training. They do have like the second team and third team and things like that. You can, you know, audition for those things. And also one way is to, you know, bind yourself into mini groups, you know, friends and family and the likes of that, and then enter lower league levels. You know, you have some community levels that you can enter, just, you know, get your chemistry right, get your performance right before you go into the bigger tournaments. And then from there you can establish yourself. And then eventually, normally, bigger teams will poach some of your team members. But if you do feel like, you know, you are a solid unit, you want to go together as a team and whatnot, you can, you know, start branching out and getting investors in to support your team, or even sponsors in. And then, you know, that's how, you know, a lot of, you know, teams out there started, you know, becoming professional by binding themselves and then, you know, treating themselves as a business. So this is something that you need to look into if you want to have full control. And also,
so
you can.
You mentioned about the live stream and all that, right? And I feel like that's a lot. That's a lot of people are doing that nowadays, like on YouTube, on Facebook, even that. Do you need to have like a specific kind of content, or you just need to play game, or you need to know what you're talking about? Because I've seen, I think the first ever gamer that I watched was PewDiePie.
Yes. Yeah. I suppose a lot of people do as well. Yeah.
Exactly. And when that's all basically. That's all I've ever watched.
I mean, you're right to some extent. There is a templated, you know, series of content that people do subscribe to. You can fall into that, or you can, you know, try and be more, you know, experimental. You know, coming up with your own content. Some people do spice things up. You know, sometimes, you know, they can be very gimmicky when it comes to their live stream. They talk about other things. They can talk about, you know, very serious political stuff sometimes. So you can, you know, spice things up. Just to get the viewers in. But I think you want to try and model yourself. Let's say if it's PewDiePie, and then, you know, model yourself from him, of him, and then try, you know, maybe adapt it to the local market, and then see where you go from there. And then let's say if your viewership, you know, grows steadily, then you know you are able to capture the market. But let's say if it's stagnant, then perhaps you can spice things up. Maybe the channel is wrong. Maybe YouTube shouldn't be the way for you, because YouTube viewership in Malaysia might be slightly lower. Maybe you could try via TikTok instead, or Facebook.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's new information. And so one is to what you mentioned, right? You start small and then you get poached by bigger teams.
Yes.
So the next one is live streams and stuff like that. So are there any other methods that, you know, people who want to break into esports can utilize to become a legit esports athlete? Besides those that you just mentioned.
Right. I guess be part of the conversation. Be part of the community, really. Be very active. Join Discord channels. Because they do a lot of scrims as well that you can enter. If you don't feel like you're a great player, for example, but you just want to be involved, maybe you think that you'll be a great commentator, for example. You know, the fact that you are within the community, in the community, is very important. Not just to get your name out there, but also be familiar, you know, with the current meta, with the current players and things like that. So you don't want to be, you know, out of the loop, because that is very hard for you to break through.
Yes. So I want you to be completely honest. I mean, we all know it's difficult. Like whenever a new YouTuber emerges, like, do you think it's difficult to be a YouTuber? Of course, I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, it's so easy. I'm I'm going to say, yeah, of course it's difficult. So I'm going to ask you the question now, Mr. Fadzli. Do you think it's very, very difficult in Malaysia to be an esports player or athlete?
I don't think so. There are a lot of success stories, really.
Really?
And those stories are unique. I mean, it's not templated. I mean, luckily for us, probably in mature market, it's more templated. Like you have a particular route that you need to fall into. But when it comes to Malaysia, it's very different. Sometimes you break through via your live stream. People see that you are good, and then people want to poach you. Some people go through the harder route, meaning go through the lower level league up until the professional league. Then only they'll get poached. It really depends on situation, I would say.
All right, very cool. That's the first time I'm hearing that, because in my head, right, like whatever that you are saying now is like, oh wow.
And some people also they break through differently. Like for example, they might be a content marketer. They don't play specifically, but they're so exposed, so they ended up playing, picking it up, and then becoming good. And then, they got poached as well. So there are a lot of routes, really. And there's no really, a linear way for you.
So
to
like
push
maybe
this,
50% is about luck, right?
I would say so.
Right?
As well.
Okay.
But I think, most important part is your communication skills. You really have to be able to communicate, regardless if you're not very fluent. But as long as you're able to engage your audiences, I think, that's a very good start.
Yeah, for sure. Just like yourself. All right. So how would you erase the stigma that esports and gaming in general among parents? Like, because so this particular student, he says, if I do this presentation on stage about how I want to be a professional gamer, my parents would kill me. I said, well, don't say that. Don't say that in front of me. And then he's like, no, my parents are really against me doing that. Then I said, oh, okay. Because I'm very before this, I'm thinking, okay, I would never imagine esports to be a career, right? Then now it's like, oh, cool. And then I'm trying to put myself in the parents' shoes, right? Like, okay, if I had a kid and my kid told me, I want to be in the esports industry. So how would you erase the stigma?
Right. There is no really easy or clear answer to this. The approach has to be institutional and also thorough.
Right.
Talking about various educational programs, that has to happen first. There is an opening acceptance already by various community or even parents or educators and whatnot, but the majority of them are still quite repulsive of the idea. Right. So you want to have a serious education. You want them to be aware of the benefits of this this industry, to not just them but also their offsprings. And concurrently, a concentrated effort within ministry has to happen as well. So for example, the KBS, we are championing youth and sports. We also have to also lobby other ministries such as Ministry of Education, and try to neutralize the stigma. Perhaps we could approach esports as a co-curricular activity. Something that is institutionalized in that sense. Treated the same way as conventional sports. So from there, then the long-term plan is to introduce a special act to protect the industry afterwards. After that one has been sorted and the stigma has been quashed to some extent, you want to have a long-term plan, sustainable plan. So one of it is to help protect this new generation coming into the industry via the act.
Right. So because when those parents come to me and say, oh, okay, my kid told you this, right? I said, well, yeah, and why did you support the idea? So I said, because it's what he chose. Because I don't know what else to say.
Yes.
And then so I always ask them, what's your issue here? Why do you feel so repulsive of the idea?
Yes.
And then obviously I can't say, never mind lah, it won't happen lah, something like this. So at least what would you as a parent or something like that would say if someone were to approach you and say, oh, I want to be a professional esports player when I grow up? Okay, what would you, Mr. Fadzli, say?
Well, I'm more practical. I suppose we can make money out of this.
Sorry,
I mean, doesn't mean
personally.
Because by the end of the day, parents will look at the viability of this as a career, right? I mean, will you be able to sustain yourself? So obviously, there are good evidences out there that a lot of professional esports players are successful financially. So that itself kind of becomes a marketing tool on its own. So you just have to recall those stories over and over again to various parents, and then But at the end of the day, it, I guess, like what you said earlier, kids or probably youth these days are probably view traditional occupations as probably, outdated.
Yeah.
They look at different things as, new career path. Becoming a entrepreneur, becoming, a social activist or even influencer is the new doctor and scientist and things like that. So the shift is already happening. So, when it comes to esports, I don't think it's much of an
exactly. And
thing.
I would actually recommend people to do it now because it's quite a new thing. Remember back when YouTube just started, it was like 2009.
Yes.
And then now it's much more difficult for people to be a YouTuber. So I always tell people, if you want to be a professional gamer in Malaysia, I think now is the time to do it because not like millions and millions of people are doing it now.
That's right.
As opposed to in the future, maybe a lot more people will be doing it, right?
Yes.
So there we go. But okay, so what are some of the harsh realities that esports athletes should be aware of, particularly when it comes to competitive gaming? So I think one of the kind of harsh reality or disadvantage, I would say, is you lose track of time playing games.
Right.
Would you say that?
That is, I suppose, when you approach, you view it on a day-to-day basis. But I think time is definitely, I suppose, it goes back to my point on the harshest fact when it comes to esports, is the average career lifespan. Yeah, it's much, much shorter compared to conventional athletes. Conventional athletes, you can play up to, say, 15, 20 years if you're going into a probably maybe a less physical sports. But when it comes to esports, just because of the turnover, the nature of the games itself, they update themselves, they refresh themselves, very rapidly. Very frequently. So chances of you sustaining your game isn't there that much, so to speak. So the lifespan is much lower. Sometimes, it goes below 1 year. Sometimes, people can just peak within 2 months and then just drop off the map completely, less than a year. But average is 1 to 3 years. If you're lucky, you can push to 5 to 7 years. But that's also dependent on the game that you choose to play as well. If it's a mobile game, highly fluid environment and things like that, then perhaps your career lifespan might be lower. You might be very be very popular and also number 1 last year. But this year, no one will remember you. So that happens. Apart from that, I guess it's general sentiment. Goes back to your, the older generation sentiment about esports. They might feel that you're just playing around. You're just an influencer, glorified influencer to some extent. They don't see your professional esports career part. So that is the sentiment that you need to fight. And also, I suppose, the pressure of multitasking. Like I said earlier, you're not just a player. You're also a marketer. You're also a content producer. So that could take a toll on people. So I guess those are the 3 harshest truths, I suppose, when it comes to competitive gaming that most people need to be aware of.
Exactly. There we go. So I hope you found that interesting. And if you have any questions, you can drop it on our Facebook Live at TRAXXfm Official. We'll be taking a short break and we'll be coming to the end of the interview in a bit.
On air. Online. TRAXXfm.
When you're low and your knees can't rise, you feel helpless and you look into the sky. Some people would say to accept defeat. Well, if this is fate, then we'll find a way to cheat. 'Cause we'll say a little prayer. But if the answer isn't fair, you know you can call on me when you need somebody. You know you can call on me when you can't stop the tears from falling down. Calvary and the help don't come, well then we'll find a way to dodge a smoking gun. 'Cause we'll say a little prayer. But if the answer isn't fair, then call on me. us from falling out. On me.
11:45 a.m. on the clock right now, and of course we are talking to Mr. Fadzli Rahim, the Vice President, Operations and Growth, Esports Integrated ESI. We have been talking about esports in Malaysia, and if you know anyone who's interested in esports and anything like that, you can definitely check us out on Facebook at TRAXXfm Official because we're live on there. But we're coming to this one. Is the esports sector profitable? Because just now we did mention that there are quite a lot of success stories, right? So is the esports sector profitable?
Yes, it is. In general, I don't have the specific numbers for Malaysia, because I don't think that there was any study conducted specifically for Malaysian market.
Right.
But I can speak when it comes to the global market. So the global esports market back in 2019, has exceeded USD 1 billion.
Wow.
So there is no updated figure yet, but I'm pretty sure during pandemic, it has probably doubled or tripled since then. And with an estimation audience of about 307 million.
Wow.
Yeah, that's your, I wouldn't say World Cup level. World Cup is still 1 billion viewer, but it's going there.
Yeah. It's slowly...
It's getting there, yes.
It's getting there.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to hear that, actually. So what are some of the most crucial things that beginners should be aware of? Because we talked about the harsh realities, where the top 3 harsh realities, where the work lifespan is probably 1 to 3 years, if you're lucky, 5 years.
Yes.
And we also, we talked about a lot of realities, the harsh ones. So what are the most crucial things that beginners should be aware of? Let's say I want to join the esports.
I would ask you, what is your interest?
Yes. First-person shooter.
First-person shooter. Okay, that is game genre, I suppose. Asking your interest when it comes to esports. Are you interested in just playing? Are you interested when it comes to maybe reviewing gameplays? Or are you interested in marketing a team? Or are you interested in developing talent? So so that is the first question I'll ask. Because I guess majority of people would say they love playing, but what do you like beyond playing, right? If you're saying that I am all 100% about playing, then go ahead, become a professional player. But let's say I do have interest when it comes to reviewing gameplays. I like commentating and things like that. So it is something that you could do at both fronts. You could be playing and also commentating gameplays as well. And second is to get or understand the culture really, or even the I guess the breadth of the culture itself, the kind of toxicity that you might face. And also if you're a female player, the rampant sexism that you will be facing, and this is due to online anonymity. So a lot of people just throw in a lot of nonsense out there, and then you might have to face it. And then sometimes you're out in the open, you are in front of a camera, you can't do anything. People just tembak you, right? So what do you do, right? And third, going back to what you said, is the genre or title that you need to basically enjoy playing.
Right.
Some people likes a variety of different play, but then they will probably zero in one title. See, for example, if it's a multiplayer online battle arena, the likes of Mobile Legends or Dota. So one people might pick Dota because PC preference. But also at the same time, he or she might like to play maybe Call of Duty, first-person shooter game. So pick your game, and from there, understand the scale of it competitively. We're talking about competitive structures. So is there any sort of leagues or tournaments already established? If it's a new game, highly likely there won't be. But if it's a matured game, there will be a very matured league structure, which means that you will be facing lots more people, lots more competitors and things like that. And set your goals. where do you see yourself? Being part of the number one local team. That's probably the first thing that you want to do. And then second, be poached by number one international team later down the road.
Right.
Yeah, and then and understanding your training commitments. When we give the label athletes to esports players, right? Their regime, their discipline is very much the same as conventional sports athletes.
Yeah.
So you need to watch what you eat. You need to watch your body, your mind. You have to have a good sleep. You need to watch everything basically. So those commitments might not necessarily be easy for a lot of people to pick up. So you need to be aware of those things.
Right. There we go. So it's not just all games and all that, right? So you actually do have to follow a certain schedule, a regime like you mentioned, right? So there we go. So hopefully those of you tuning in right now, you found that interesting and useful. If your kid has been bothering you about esports or talking to you a lot about esports, you can definitely share this video with them. And so, Mr. Fadzli, is there anything else you would like to say to our listeners before we end this?
Yes, I do. Be open and have discussions. This is, a message to parents, teachers, or just general skeptics who might still view esports as not a viable career choice, or still sees it as a very non-serious form of sports.
Yeah.
Be open. Have discussions with people who are in the industry. Probably go YouTube and just watch maybe one or two streams. Maybe you change your view.
Right.
Give it a try. Visit sites, visit tournaments. If you like sports, it's very easy for you to transition to esports. The feel is the same. When you're in the crowd, it's like cheering for your team. It's exactly that, right? Be less toxic. This is for the community out there. Be less toxic. Be more accepting towards young and old, towards female players, towards disabled players, and so forth.
Yeah.
And also be very involved with the scene. Get in touch. Follow all the relevant esports media locally, internationally, or even esports bodies such as ESI. MESF, MSN, KBS, and the likes of them. So, keep yourself abreast with the news when it comes to esports.
Right.
Yeah.
Get yourself involved with the community.
Yes.
Yeah? All right. There we go. Thank you so much for your insights, Mr. Fadzli Rahim. We have been talking to him, the Vice President of Operations and Growth, Esports Integrated. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
We will be back next week for more topics, issues, tips, and insights. Spectrum. Youth, arts, culture. Only on TRAXXfm.